Hello, my name is Tamara Corley, and today I am going to talk to you about the use of apparel in the management of vitamin D deficiency in African Americans. So, vitamin D is a steroid hormone that is vital to cellular homeostasis and human health in general. It's also the most common nutritional deficiency in the United States, particularly among African Americans. In fact, more than half of the African American population in the US is deficient in vitamin D. One study conducted in Philadelphia found that serum vitamin D levels of 61% of African American males were below normal values. This deficiency has health and monetary implications for the African American population, including longer hospital stays on average and increased healthcare costs. As of today, there are very few practical solutions for this prominent health issue. Vitamin D can be obtained from dietary sources such as fish oil, liver, and fortified dairy products. Skin exposure to ultraviolet B radiation, however, accounts for approximately 90% of vitamin D synthesis in humans. It's produced in the epidermal layer of the skin when UVB from sunlight exposure photolyzes 7-dehydrocholesterol into pre-vitamin D3. Pre-vitamin D3 then undergoes thermal isomerization into vitamin D3 before it's transported to the liver. In the liver, vitamin D3 is further hydroxylated into 25-hydroxyvitamin D. This is in turn converted into 1-alpha-25 dihydroxyl vitamin D, or calcitriol, by the kidneys. Calcitriol is the biologically active form that acts on target tissues. Vitamin D is stored in the body in the biologically inactive form, 25-hydroxyvitamin D, which is used to determine serum vitamin D concentrations due to its shorter half-life. Vitamin D targets the liver, kidneys, and gut, but it also has broader effects on other cells throughout the body, such as lymphocytes, plaque macrophages in the arteries, and the endothelial cells of the cardiovascular system, as well as the islet cells of the pancreas. Insufficiencies in this crucial nutrient can be significantly detrimental to the overall health of an individual. For instance, vitamin D plays a vital role in immune responses via T and B cells. Maladaptive immune response secondary to low serum vitamin D levels increases an individual's susceptibility to infections and inflammatory diseases with lengthened recovery times. Vitamin D deficiency in African Americans has been associated with a disproportionately increased risk for cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and renal disease. Increased mortality has also been associated with vitamin D deficiency. In fact, individuals who are deficient in this nutrient are twice as likely to die within 7 years. Melanin. Melanin is a protein produced by ovoid organelles known as melanosomes. They're located in the basal layer of the epidermis. Melanin serves as a mechanical barrier that shields the deeper epidermal layers of the skin from ultraviolet radiation. And it also scatters UVA and UVB radiation so that only a fraction of each is absorbed by the skin. It has been suggested that melanogenesis, the production of melanin in mammals, is a repair mechanism for photo damage caused by UVR. The protective qualities of melanin are a great defense against sunburns, but what happens when you have too much protection from the sun? Melanin competes with 7-dehydrocholesterol, which we mentioned earlier was the first step in vitamin D synthesis. This competition for absorption of UVB radiation subsequently decreases 25-hydroxyvitamin D synthesis in a concentration-dependent manner. On average, exposure of at least 20% of the total surface of Caucasian skin to sunlight is needed to produce sufficient vitamin D levels. African Americans, however, require 6 times the UVR dosage to produce the same sufficiency. Darker skin is effective in limiting the effects of cutaneous photo damage, but it also limits UVB radiation necessary for vitamin D synthesis. So far, we know that African Americans synthesize less vitamin D on average than individuals who have fairer skin, And we also know that clothing can have a significant effect on an individual's skin exposure to UV light. Clothing analysis actually has a particular component called the ultraviolet protective factor, or UPF, which measures the ability of fabric to block UVA and UVB radiation. The ultraviolet protective factor of textile materials depends on several elements, including fabric fit, density, and color. Higher UPF values correlate to less UVR exposure. So the higher the UPF value, the less sun exposure you're getting. My research question is, can decreasing the ultraviolet protection factor in articles of clothing worn by African American men promote an increase in the amount of vitamin D synthesized by their body? My hypothesis is that decreasing the ultraviolet protection factor in clothing will lead to increased vitamin D production in this study's test subjects. To answer these questions, each of the following specific aims will be addressed. First, I want to determine whether more loosely knit material offers more profound ultraviolet radiation exposure in African American males, and subsequently higher vitamin D serum levels than the same material in a denser knit. Next, I want to use the looser knit clothing material from specific aim 1 to establish whether white, gray, or black material will allow for the highest ultraviolet radiation exposure with the highest vitamin D serum levels in African American males. Finally, I want to use the more loosely knit standard in the white color from specific aim 2 to ascertain whether silk, mesh, or natural cotton permit the most exposure to ultraviolet radiation and the highest level of serum vitamin D in African American males. I predict that UVR exposure and subsequent serum vitamin D levels will be greater in more loosely knit clothing when compared to more densely knit clothing, white clothing when compared to gray and black clothing, and natural cotton when compared to mesh or silk. The subjects for my study will be African American males 18 years and up. Exposure to ultraviolet radiation is known to increase with altitude, so this study will take place in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which has an elevation of 6,035 feet above sea level. It will be conducted during the months of June through August when the UV index is at its highest, and serum vitamin D levels will be assessed at the times listed here. Clothing fit in this study will remain constant across all subjects. So each subject will wear both pants and a short-sleeved t-shirt in materials as defined by each of the treatment groups. For specific aim 1, to determine the effects of knit density on ultraviolet radiation exposure and subsequent vitamin D production in African American males, 100 test subjects will wear white natural cotton pants and short-sleeved t-shirts with a looser knit density over the testing period. The material will be single knit in structure with knit and tuck stitches. Another 100 test subjects will wear the same clothing in a higher knit density with a double knit structure and knit and tuck stitches as well. For specific aims 2 and 3, the clothing materials will not be subjected to any color preserving additives, which can additionally affect UPF values. The clothing will be replaced daily to minimize any effects from discoloration or fading with repeated washing and wearing. And the fabric knit density will remain constant between the treatment groups. So for specific aim 2, to test the effects of clothing hue on UVR and vitamin D production in the African American male test subjects, we'll be using the looser knit clothing standard from the previous aim. 100 subjects will wear this material in white, the control group, 100 will wear it in a medium gray, and 100 subjects will wear the material in black. Finally, specific aim 3, UVR exposure and vitamin D synthesis will be assessed for different textile materials. So 100 subjects will wear pants and short-sleeved t-shirts in white natural cotton fabric, which has a UPF value of 8. 100 subjects will wear white silk with a UPF value of 9.10, and 100 subjects will wear white mesh, which has a UPF value that has yet to be determined through studies. So it is my hope that the findings of this study will serve to address the ultraviolet protection factor of clothing as a potentially important component in the ongoing issue of vitamin D deficiencies in individuals with higher epidermal concentrations of melanin. And as a result, I aspire to offer a foundation on which this public health issue can be improved with this study. Thank you for your time.